Good morning, everybody. My name is Julia Pittman. I'm the head of customer strategy at Beaver Pest Control, which is now part of Orkin UK, and I chair the EDI committee. So this talk is primarily aimed towards younger people in the pest control industry, but if you are older, feel free to add your comments in the chat with your experiences, because although I'd like to really focus on the benefits that young people can bring to a business, and I'm going to share a couple of examples, feel free to give us your perception, because what I also want to do with the chat is collect people's experiences. So it would be useful so we're going to use 35, which is not particularly young, but we're going to use 35 as a guideline. So if you tell us in the chat if you're under 35 or if you're over 35, you don't need to tell us your actual age, but just so that we know where your experience is coming from. So I recently went back to university to study for my MBA, and I missed going to university when I was younger because I had my children young. But I do believe that it doesn't really matter too much when you do things as long as you do them. Some people have children young, like myself. Some people wait until they're older. But I think the old traditional journey of, leave school, go to university, get married, buy a house, have children, and in that order is probably long gone. So my advice and my opinion would be do things when the time is right for you and don't worry too much about anything else. My final dissertation for my MBA was a study on women in the pest control industry. But today I'd like to pick your brains about young people and the barriers that they may face. So all of you have been successful in joining the pest control industry. That's why you're here today. And I have a couple of questions for you. So please use the chat function. So did you know someone in the industry before you joined? Was it like a friend or a family? And did you respond to a job advert and have no prior knowledge of the industry? Because I think that we are good at bringing young people into the industry when they have knowledge, like they have exposure to the industry. So maybe a parent or a friend. But in my experience, people don't leave school with the aim of becoming a pest controller unless they know someone in the industry. So the EDI committee, thank you, I can see the polls. So we've got 7 under 35 and 31 over 35. Great, thank you. It would be good for all of you if you could let us know how you joined the industry. Was it because somebody knew, and use the chat function for this? Did you know someone in the industry, or did you just respond to a job advert with no prior exposure? So the EDI committee is trying to change this. And for me, EDI is about welcoming people with skills, strong potential, regardless of their background. So regardless of age, gender, race, religion, disabilities. I believe that as an industry, we should be committed to excellence. We should also recognise that talent comes in many forms, and we've seen it today. So as this is the Young Professional Special, I'm going to show you what we're doing in the EDI committee and also what we've done at Beaver. So let me just go to the next slide. Yeah, as I said, so my personal opinion is that young people have a huge amount of talent, but do we tap into it enough? I don't know. So let me ask you another question. And again, use the chat. Let us know if you're under 35 or over 35. What, in your experience, is the biggest challenge being young in the industry? And for those of you over 35, what are the challenges that you've faced and have they changed? So while writing this presentation, I realized that one of the things that we do well at Beaver is we recognize young talent. And we don't just recognize it, we actively encourage that young talent to take on responsibility, probably more than most. So I'm going to share with you 2 of our examples, hopefully as inspiration for the young people in the room, but also as, if you're older and you've got younger people in your team, or maybe you're an employer, this is what young talent is capable of. So first up, we have Joe Strong. So you can see on this slide, Joe Strong's training records. So Joe joined Beaver when he was 20 years old. And I think it's fair to say, and I have asked him if it's okay to say this, but Joe didn't enjoy school and he left with basic English and maths qualifications, not much else. However, once he joined Beaver, he really found his vocation. And you can see, although he didn't have lots of educational qualifications from school, he's got a huge amount of vocational qualifications with us now. So he started off as a pest control tech. He passed his RSPH level 2 quite quickly and then joined the bird team where he spent 3 years learning his craft. Then in 2019, Joe persuaded David Lodge, who heads up our service teams, to take drainage in-house. Our customers were having issues. They were bouncing backwards and forwards between us and drain companies. So Joe wanted to take drainage in-house. So it took him a long time to persuade us because we were very conscious of the risks of doing that. But we finally decided to listen to him and to give him a go. And he became the division manager for, at the time, our newly formed drainage and pest exclusion team. And at the time, he was 23. So here's Joe winning our internal Made a Difference awards. And he also won Young Tech of the Year in 2023. Now, just to give you some idea of numbers, Joe started off this division pretty much from scratch. By the end of 2022, that area was turning over 308,000. By the end of 2023, he'd got it up to 543,000. Now he's 28 and he manages this division. It's got a turnover of over £1 million on its own. He's got a team of 8 full-time people and he's adding skills to the team on a regular basis. So the latest service they've just added is patch lining. So what did Joe do to make himself stand out? So he badgered us with his idea continually, didn't give up. He was really passionate about his idea. And when we asked him to come back to us with a plan, he did. And really importantly, he followed through with his actions. Joe is an amazing young talent. If you'd looked at him on paper, you might have thought, I don't know how good he's going to be. But his passion and his drive and his ability to put together a plan and follow through with actions has shown just what he can do. So that's Joe. Our next example is James Wood. And here is James winning Pest Controller of the Year in 2022. James's educational qualifications are quite different to Joe's. James started as a pest control technician in 2016 and he was 22. He was a graduate of the Royal Holloway, University of London, where he studied nothing to do with pest control, not biology or environmental sciences. James studied music. So he was fast-tracked to service management within a couple of years. He was still pretty young to be managing a team, it's like 24. At the same time, he became our technical trainer, where he started our in-house training centre for the RSPH Level 2. Since then, he's trained over 100 people and he's put over 50 through their Level 2. In 2021, when he was 27, he was promoted to Head of Training and Compliance, and he created the escalations team. And they deal with the most complex sites and stubborn rodent issues. He's now 31 and he's just about to be promoted again to Orkin UK. James has also given back to the industry. He served on the BPCA Servicing Committee and also the RSPH Advisory Panel. He now volunteers in professional standards. One of the things that James does really well, and we're going to come back to this, is he uses tech to collect data. So James's favourite phrase, and I was listening to him present to our sales team earlier, his favourite phrase is, you can't manage what you can't measure. So he is all about data. And his favourite thing is to take data, to take the tools that generate data, so remote cameras or maybe sensors, collect the data and then look at where the rodent issues are on site and pinpoint so that we can proof and deal with the problem areas. And he does that really successfully. So these are just two examples of young people that have excelled. As I said earlier, we've seen Clara, Fergal, and Jordan present today. And, again, presenting is not easy. I'm sure they've pushed themselves out of their comfort zone, but that experience is going to be really invaluable in the future. So my vision for the EDI committee is to spread the word both within our industry and externally. There are great careers in the pest control industry, and we want the widest range of people to apply to join us. So we're currently working on some recruitment initiatives. The EDI committee was set up to look at the recruitment and retention challenges that we have within the industry. It's a common theme when you're talking to companies that they're finding it difficult to recruit and to retain staff. So we're currently working on some recruitment initiatives, which will be released in September and October. And these will focus on showcasing the pest control industry to the outside world. So we know that we can recruit people who have connections to the industry, but we need to, in my opinion, spread the net wider to make sure that we get the best and the brightest talent to join us. If you are interested in having your voice heard, please contact the BPCA and they will point you in the right direction, because we have many committees and working groups who are interested in hearing from you. I just want to remind you of the committees and the special interest groups that we have currently, because I'm pretty sure there's something in here for everyone. As you can see, we have the executive board, which I sit on, and we've just had some new members join us, so that's fantastic. And then we have the 4 committees. So starting off with the technical committee, this committee focuses on best practice and guidance. We have outreach and comms. So if you think about how we communicate with a range of stakeholders, lobbying, that's critical for the industry moving forward, especially where you have changing legislation. Outreach and comms looks at the channels and communication inside and outside of the sector. So local government, national government, DEFRA, BRC, a variety of stakeholders. Then we have professional standards, and this committee looks at how we promote professionalism within the industry. EDI, which is I chair, we look at recruitment and retention. And then if we think about the special interest groups, we have FACE, which is fumigation and controlled environments. So they align codes of best practice along that industry. We have Bugwise, anyone that's got an interest in invertebrate management. So maybe monitoring insecticide resistance and then sharing it with the committees, the boards, and to the wider industry. Rodent management group. This is for people that are interested in monitoring resistance and control methods. And we saw some of the work that Clara was doing earlier with the working group. We have Beewise, which is one of my favorites. So this is the conservation and management of bees, really important work that they do here. So they look at improving the knowledge, treatment, and conservation of bee species. Bird management. So similar, they create guidance, advice, and best practice to do with our avian friends. And then Wildwise, I knew I was going to struggle with that. Wildwise, so that's a wildlife management group, and that's for people interested in wildlife management. So I think it's fair to say that there is something for everyone in the industry to get involved with if you want. And if you think of diversity, we need a wide range of opinions. So maybe sole traders, smaller companies, larger companies. We want the fullest range of experience and opinions to guide us and the industry moving forward. We are shaking up how the committees meet, because we are conscious, obviously, that you're all working and it's a time commitment. So we have around 2 to 3 meetings on Teams a year. This year, we did a 2-day conference. That was an in-person event for all of the committees to get together and the executive board We got everybody together in Derby, worked on projects, and then we shared them. And it was an opportunity to network. It was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to doing that again next year with everybody. So that is the structure of the BPCA committees and special interest groups. So I just wanted to recap on what young people can bring to the table. Innovation, very, very important in a sector that's traditionally moved very slowly. Remote monitoring, cameras, trending, AI, how is that going to affect our industry? My prediction is that the companies that take advantage of this technology, they're going to have the advantage. Number two, you're tech savvy. Younger people generally have grown up with tech in a way that Gen X, my generation, haven't, and that gives them an advantage in the digital age. In actual fact, this morning I had a conversation with my daughter and I said, I don't really know how to put a background on Zoom, and she laughed and called me a boomer. I'm not, actually, I'm Gen X, but I take the point, we're not quite as comfortable with digital as maybe, as young people that have grown up with it at their fingertips. So could you become the go-to person for tech in your team, for example? Number three, use your energy and be flexible. Now, I'm generalizing, but younger people generally are willing to take more risks. And I really love this quote. You will miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So while you're young, or even if you're older, take some risks. It's really important to get out there and try new things. We took a risk in our business when we brought drainage in-house. It was scary. There's a lot of things that can go wrong there, but we took a risk and actually it's really been beneficial for the business. If you're young or older, think about where you might want to develop. So I have a list, which I call my 80 before 80. And basically, it's a list of things that I want to achieve in my lifetime or before I'm 80. My MBA was one of them. Carrying out a renovation project, I did a loft conversion. There's a lot of travel on it, but it could be anything. Could be your career plans. But I think writing it down just crystallizes and provides a focal point, because you know how it is. You look at things and think, I'd like to do that. And then life happens and you forget all about it and it carries on. And before you know it, time's passed and you haven't done a lot of the things that you wanted to do. I did a renovation project. I learned a lot during that process about project management. They are transferable skills that I can take into my business. My MBA, I learnt about presenting, I learnt about structuring writing, and it's transferable skills that I can take into the workplace. Traveling gives you loads of skills. Resilience, you've got to work things out. All of these things that you do outside, you will gain transferable skills that you can then bring into your workplace. So you could do a 30 before 30 or a 40 before 40 or 50 before 50, whatever works for you. But it doesn't really matter when you do things as long as you do things. However, one tip that I want to give, especially the younger people, invest on a regular basis. So I know it's hard out there, but one regret I do have is not really understanding the power of compound interest. So yeah, for sure, invest as much as you can. You could thank me later on that. So some quick wins. Networking, connect with your peers like you're doing here. Find a mentor, that's important. I learned so much from industry professionals like Chris Cagenard, other people on the BPCA board, but not just our industry, people in other companies or other industries. Be curious. You only need one good idea from a session like this, and it's worth the time investment. Decide how you want people to see you and become that person, because you have to be authentic. Make sure your behavior reflects who you want to be seen as. So if you want to be seen as an expert, then you need to become an expert. Learn as much as you can on your subject. Join focus groups, speak in public like we're doing here, stand up and be counted. Jordan, I was struck by how much the knowledge that Jordan had in that food manufacturing sector and the work that Fergal was doing with the EHOs and Clara with behavioral resistance. They are starting on their journey to becoming experts. And then some ideas on how you might show your strengths, speak up and use your voice. Don't be worried. Your first public speaking event will probably be rubbish, but that's how you learn. I did my first podcast the other day. It was terrible, but I learned so much from it. And if I do one again, it will be better. Commit to learning a new skill or a piece of knowledge every week. Hone your expertise. And then finally, I'd like to say thank you. If you're interested in volunteering your time or an energy to the business, please speak to the BPCA. I'd love to hear your industry stories, especially if you're a young person, as it will help us with our EDI talent and recruitment work. And you can always email me at julia@beaverpest.co.uk or hit me up on LinkedIn and share your stories. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you for joining us. We'll just wait a second to see if we have any questions coming in. But at the moment, there is no real questions, but just an absolute sort of support for the work you are doing to help sort of young people in the industry and sort of giving them a voice and a platform for them to speak. I think it just shows, talk is cheap, but action does obviously show a huge amount of difference. And you've got loads, you're going to have loads of responses as well to go through as well to find out who's joined. Let's try and keep
I can actually see a story. I don't know if you can see this, but I can see a story from Jason. And he said he left a very promising career behind with a big company because they wouldn't listen to him. And he now owns a pest business with 5 employees, all under 30. They're tripling revenue year on year. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Well, I think it just shows where you've got sort of that young, ambitious drive, and and I think attitude really, age very rarely comes into it, and a lot of the time it does come into attitude. So that's great. So I mean, if you have sort of obviously we spoke around obviously a few of the people, but I mean, what other tips and tricks do you have? Obviously, we spoke around getting involved with the BPCA. With your like MBA and stuff, is there any sort of things that you can sort of say to young people of how they can market themselves in an age where young people may not be seen particularly favorably?
Yeah.
Have any tips and tricks for sort of young people marketing themselves?
I think you've got to decide how you want to be seen and then work towards that, presenting that image. So if you want to be seen as an expert in the pest control industry, for example, then you might want to write articles. I write a lot of articles. I do thought leadership. I write a lot of articles I had one out in Pest magazine. I write for facilities magazines, cleaning industry, and it's all around using digital and tech and how the industry is going to move forward in the future. So you can do things like that. You can volunteer to speak in forums. One thing I do want to say, and I think this is really important for maybe the older people that are listening in the room, it's really important that we listen to and recognize young talent. Because if you don't listen to your young talent and you don't recognize them, then like with Jason, you risk losing that talent out of your business. I know, Niall, you and I were talking pre-presentation about your experience.
Yeah, my story is quite a funny one because I never really wanted to go into pest management. My mum made me apply for a job when I was stuck in retail. So that's how I ended up in pest management. Although I studied an adjacent sort of industry, I think it's quite funny having that. So I was 26 when I came into the industry. Working in food manufacturing was always quite a challenge where you have sort of technical people there who have been sort of technical managers in factories for 30, 40 years, and you sort of come in and I've often been referred to as a puppy just sort of bounding around wanting to get into lots of different things. And it can be difficult, I think. So it is good that we are starting to see now that, pest management is a specialism. I think that really helps young people as well, showing that as the industry being very professional, that automatically makes young people being professional.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. That we've always done it that way. But things are moving on and they're moving on rapidly. I mean, AI, I don't know about you, but I use AI on a daily basis, on a regular basis. It's here now. So I think you can either be scared of it and avoid it, or you can embrace it and use it within your business. And I think my prediction is that the companies that use it within their business, they are the ones that are going to have the advantage. She's in our customer service team, and her degree is in app design and management. But we're going to be looking at some AI type projects, harnessing her knowledge, because she's got that skill set. I haven't got that skill set. I know what I want to achieve, but I'm going to harness her skill set to be able to do that. And I think that's what we need to do. Recognize that young talent, keep them within our businesses and our industry, and use them, use their skill sets.
Yeah, I think it's sort of another thing that's sort of culturally for young people as well, don't they? So, I mean, I've always sort of pretty much stayed in one job until I've left. I've gone to another job, but young people are now much more happy to be fluid and moving. And I think one that can be quite daunting for employers, the catch also is if you don't invest in your people, you're definitely going to lose them. But I think having lots of people who do move around actually means that they get a bigger skill set from lots of different industries. So, I mean, my background's forestry, landscape management, and retail. Well, actually, customer service is prime in all of those, dealing with customers and external people. I think definitely investing in young people, and actually all of your workforces isn't just exclusive to young people, but I think definitely investing in workforces is a way to really secure good talent and keep them there. Like James now being the head walk-in, or
Yeah.
like now, at that age, sort of getting to that level at such a young age is very, very good. But it does just show with that energy and the ability to, like just to let people grow and actually sort of guide them. Like we might not always get it right, and I'm not, every young person in the room saying, it's like,
Yeah.
I think this is where sort of younger people and older people can work together quite well. And actually you have that knowledge and that experience, but you can utilize everything that young people can also do.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. I mean, one of the things that Orkin, I've noticed, have done, recognizing young talent. So Natasha, who was our marketing manager, she's 32. She's now group. She's now gone to group and she's doing marketing. James was our technical trainer. He's now group technical trainer. Kieran is young. He's bid manager. They're good at recognizing talent. And I think that's what we need to do more of.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you again for taking your
You're
time
welcome.
out today and everything you do to supporting young people. And obviously, if anyone's got any questions, queries about the BPCA committee, special interest groups, then just give us an email, drop us a call, and we'll get the questions to where they need to be. So thank you again, Julia.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.